Is presenting in a show this afternoon, Lincoln Elementary, if anyone's got elementary students, and this schedule got moved. So I don't want to miss that, so this worked out really, really well. I love being here with you guys, but that comes first. So this is great. Long and winding road into product marketing. Show of hands, is anyone here in B2C, or is everyone B2B? Okay, we've got some B2C, so that's good. Just to have a little twist there. That's more my background, or B2B to C. And kind of talking about different ways to get into product marketing. Let's see. Oh, quickly. So Tim Carr, Oracle Advertising. We have a suite of products that are utilized by advertisers, mostly B2C, but some B2B. And it's a lot of targeting solutions and a lot of solutions to measure the effectiveness of advertising pretty much in any digital channel. So different ways to get into product marketing. One of them is going to be this very linear journey that might start from school. You study marketing. You might come in and start in some kind of entry-level marketing position, maybe a coordinator event, something like that. Someone taps you. You enter product marketing. At some point, you get core certified. You do all of your trainings. You can progress through there. The other way is this way that I came in, is this long, wound-about way that you get into product marketing. You might not even know where you're heading. You might not even know what product marketing is. I did not know what product marketing is because I come from consumer packaged goods industry. Does anyone work in CPG at all? You don't have product marketers, you have brand managers, and you have advertising teams. But this concept doesn't really exist the same way. And that's what my background is here. So I've spent about 20 years in consumer goods, Pfizer Consumer, some work at Johnson & Johnson, Kimberly-Clark, lots of different consumer goods companies. I've sold to probably every retailer in the United States at some point, which is asking, like, how are you at Oracle? And in B2C, like, it's just a strange path. But I've done all these different functions. These are all functions that are very similar to what we all do, whether you're in B2B or B2C. You're doing market research, category management. That's really about understanding what your competitors are and understanding all the products in the market and trying to understand what they are. Shopper insights, sales strategy. About 5 years ago, Oracle brought me in to be a CPG brand strategy lead. So we did a lot of consulting work with big CPG companies, consumer packaged goods. And I did that for a while, and I was like, this is great, but I really want to understand what our core products are. And I wasn't getting that experience. I didn't know really how they worked. I was just this good translator. So I said, I need to go get a sales job here so that I can actually understand what our products are. And I've found in my past that when you sell the product, you learn it in probably a better, deeper way than almost anybody else. And it's a great way to learn the customer. So I said, hey, I want to go do that next. I spent about 6 months interviewing for that job, and it was leading Amazon and Pinterest, two platforms that I absolutely love. It's like, this is fantastic, my two favorite jobs. And then you get that phone call one day on a Friday afternoon, the phone call that nobody wants to get. There's a restructure. So I spent 6 months trying to get the job. I was in the job for 6 months. And then my boss says, hey, some things are changing. We are restructuring, eliminating a lot of people in these roles, including yours that I spent 6 months trying to recruit you and hire you for. And what should have been the worst day of my life turned out to be one of the best, because she said, hey, there's this person who is standing up product marketing. I'm like, I don't know what product marketing is. And she's been watching you on LinkedIn. Actually, I brought her to that meeting that we had about 2 months ago because she was really interested in you from watching what you've been writing about our products. I was like, why is she interested in me doing that? She said, because you understand our customer challenges better than our product teams and our marketing teams. You can explain our solutions in a really clear, simple way, and you know what our sellers need to be successful. Cool, great, let's go try this. So that was 3.5 years ago, where I came in to be a product marketer. Now I'm leading the product marketing team at Oracle Advertising. And I started to think back as I got the call from Rose saying, hey, would you be interested in talking at this event? I was like, sure, what do you want to talk about? I have no idea. So I thought maybe I'll talk about this. And it's really thinking back, reflecting, like what are those skills that I learned along the way that have allowed me to be a good product marketer? There are lots of them. We've talked about a lot of these. But what I found interesting is where I learned them was in a completely different industry, completely different function, completely different way to go to market. And a lot of times it's about the skills you have or those kind of characteristics, those traits, not necessarily what you need to know in that specific function. Because I think you said it earlier, it's about people who are like passionate about learning and doing something. And that's what product marketing is. So what are some of those skills? First one that I learned very, very early, my very first job out of school, is about falling in love with data. My dad was a CPA. I hated math. I was not analytical at all. Like, this is not the right place for me. But I ended up at a market research company that they hired me. It was great. It was all about data. So that might not have been ideal, but what I was good at was seeing patterns and connecting dots and looking at trends and kind of drawing conclusions based on those. And one day, so I was about 6 months out of school, I was sitting on site at Johnson & Johnson, and the research company that we had, we basically had all of the sales data from every retailer in the United States. We would bring that data together so that if you work at one of these companies, you don't have first-party relationship with them. You sell your products through retailers. So you need to know what's happening with your sales moving off the shelf. We provided that data to them. So I'm sitting, they tucked us away in a corner in like a dark room where our help desk was. And one day this guy kind of walks in and he's like, hey, where's this report come from? I'm like, oh, it's something I was just put together. I sent it to a couple people. I was like, yeah, this is really good. This is really helpful. Could you do me a favor? Could you call me on like Tuesday morning? I travel a lot. Could you call me on Tuesday mornings and just leave me a voicemail with like the important things on here? I'm like, okay, this is a long time ago. Email was hard. This was like a piece of paper that I would go walk around through J&J headquarters and like put on people's desks. I was like, okay, let me just double check with my manager. Yeah, what's your name? Okay, cool, I'll write that down. So I see my manager a little bit later and he says, I was like, yeah, this guy wants me to leave him a voicemail on Tuesday mornings before 8 a.m. I was like, who was it? It was Don Casey. It's like, what? He's the president of J&J. He's the division president. And that's where I realized the importance of data, because here I am, 6 months out of school. I don't even work for his company. He came down, he spent about 15 minutes talking to me about this. He's like nicest person in the world. And he wanted that information because having that data was so important to him wherever he was. And it kind of set me in this path that like forever, I realized how valuable and important that data is. And it's important to all of us for lots of different reasons. So how can being data-driven help you as a product marketer? There are various different ways, and I kind of wrote this from the mindset of someone who is not in product marketing maybe, who wants to enter product marketing, or maybe someone who might be kind of newer in their career. So one is, the reason I like it more than anything is having confidence and conviction in what you're doing and the recommendations you're making. Because if you don't have that, you are dead in the water in this field. Because people are going to challenge every decision that you're making and push back. We kind of said earlier, like we often need to set our own course and kind of say what we are going to do and who we are. And it's hard to do that if you don't have any data to back up those decisions. Establish credibility. So I was kind of brand new in product marketing, and they threw me in with a product lead who had churned through a lot of people, a lot of partners that they worked with. But I immediately established credibility because I brought something valuable to the table, as I always brought facts to them. And then just increasing your value. And lots of different ways to showcase this. Just including facts whenever you can in any recommendation, any data points that you have. Utilizing it in content that you're creating, just making sure you're embedding that. And the one that I like is a lot of times you might not have all that market research, but we all probably scour the web all the time. I'm constantly finding things, putting them in spreadsheets and just making them indexable. So that anytime someone's looking for a stat or something, they just come in like, oh, here, it's right here. Just grab it and put it in your content. So another one. knowing your customer, again, something that I learned in consumer goods that's incredibly important. We all know understanding your persona is hyper important here. So it's about being customer obsessed. In the world of consumer goods, you've got so many ways to understand your customer. The first and easiest way is what will drive people absolutely bonkers if you shop with someone in CPG, because they'll go in and they'll stand at the shelf for like hours. They look at every single thing. Where is the box? What is someone looking at? They pick it up. Did they turn it around? What color were they looking at? The promotions, the signage. You just look at everything. And so you literally get the opportunity to watch your customer in that buying decision to see what they're picking up and ultimately what goes into the shelf, in the shopping basket. Because if you get to see that purchase decision when it happens, P&G calls this the first moment of choice. Like, what is it that you pick up and put in that shopping basket? And understanding that customer, we all know how important that is. Not only do we get to watch them, but in consumer goods and all that data that you have, every time you buy anything with a credit card, your loyalty card, all of that data is tracked. It's how we build most of our products that I sell. It's all about understanding consumers' purchase behavior and understanding that. But you literally get to see when someone buys this product, they buy the same one the next week, they buy the same one the next week, and then they buy a different product the week after that. What made them switch from your product to somebody else? So you can see all that data, both observing and in that data. That complementary knowledge set. Often if you are trying to get into product marketing, especially if you're coming from a sales role or an account management role and you really want to get into product or product marketing, the most valuable thing that you have that they don't have is knowing that customer and being able to explain it. And just some examples of ways, like interesting ways that I have found to kind of bring value and I give recommendations. Like our company does hackathons a lot. You've got a lot of people who might come from product or engineering, but they know nothing about the customer. Go volunteer to be on one of those teams. Instantly, they're going to see value in what you can bring to them that they really weren't thinking about. Or inviting product teams to sales calls. It's a great way if you're in more a go-to-market role to demonstrate the value and knowledge you have from a customer, but don't invite them for them to do your job and come do the pitch for you. Invite them just to observe. Give them a chance. Carve out time for them to actually be able to ask questions. When I find good sellers who are interested, I get asked all the time, hey, how do I come into product marketing? Well, connect with product and marketing folks and invite them in and carve out time in your sales meeting so that they can just ask customers or ask the customers direct questions. Another one here. This is just, things that we do all the time: create, write, sketch, curate, like all of this constantly. I was not in I never had a marketing job. I never was a particularly good writer. But at one point when I decided, I wanted to switch a little bit and try and figure out a different approach to selling, I just set a goal. I'm going to write on LinkedIn 3 times a week. And every few days I was posting something different and constantly watching to see what would get engagement, what would capture attention. Was it a picture? Was it a short form? Was it long form? And constantly trying to refine that. And lots of different ways to do that. And as product marketers, we all need to be doing that to really refine that messaging and figure out what works, what's capturing our audience's attention. And that's, what's going to resonate with them. Probably one of the most important skills that I think is that notion of simplifying. Something that I picked up in this world of selling to all of these retailers. When you go in and you sell to a retailer category manager, they probably have 20 meetings scheduled in a day where you've got people who look exactly like you coming in, sitting in front of them, trying to sell the same box to them to put on their shelf. You need to find a way to break through to that buyer for them to actually understand what you're trying to do. And if you can't simplify your message and get someone's attention like that, you're out the door and you're not going to sell that product in. Next one, telling great stories. So when I think of being a good storyteller, there's 3 things in my mind that you have to be able to do. You have to have a message that you're trying to get across and be clear on that. You have to make it relatable to some problem or something that your audience is trying to connect with, and you have to capture attention. If you can't do all three of them, you might be a great storyteller, but not deliver a message that means anything. I work in advertising. There's lots of people who make amazing ads, but you have no idea what the product was. One of our products is measuring attention. So when in this digital ecosystem where you can track everything, people spend tremendous amounts of money on advertising, and we can figure out exactly how long that image is on screen. A lot of times people buy ads that never show up on screens anywhere, kind of like the old newspaper days below the fold. You might not ever see that ad. If no one sees it, it can't possibly be effective. Or if it's something like a video format, if people tune out before your branding ever shows up in a video ad, which you look at something like social, for 95% of people, it's about 1.5 seconds. If your branding shows up at second 3, 95% of those impressions had zero chance of having an impact. So your stories need to be able to capture attention, have a message, and make it memorable so that people actually remember it. So that's all about engaging your target audience, more effectively communicating those messages, and becoming more memorable with them, kind of what I just said there. And just simple ways to do this, again, for those people who might be thinking about coming into product marketing, or maybe you're more junior in product marketing. What are easy ways to demonstrate this? We're all at trainings. You all have these opportunities where, so hey, you've got a small group, do a share back, volunteer for those. Say, yeah, I'm happy to go present those. Practice presenting with peers. This is something we did. It's been a long time. Unfortunately, it's hard. And I try and introduce this or make sure my teams are doing this, of just getting every single person the opportunity to present something. And it doesn't have to be about work. Most of the time, I kind of force it to not be about work. Just everybody have constant opportunity to present something in front of peers, a story, 2-minute sharebacks, and just get people talking. And then also making sure there's opportunity to do that in various formats. Actual standing on stage and presenting, doing it in a small group, writing something so that people can read it, because everyone is good at capturing and telling stories in different ways, and making sure everyone's got that chance to kind of shine and practice in those. And then the last one here, this last skill that I find being really helpful for product marketers is this orchestration role. And I think there's been lots of people who have talked about this. Are you the conductor? Are you the quarterback? And, trying to get that Venn diagram of all these different functions. The instance where I realized this is probably more important than anything I've been through. At Pfizer, we were having an awful sales year, very, very bad sales year for our products. I remember a big meeting. It was maybe a room somewhat like this, except they would have the big sales team. You'd stand in the front here, and there was a giant horseshoe circle around you, and you'd stand there with these lights shining on you, and the heads of sale, or the heads of marketing, and the heads of the brands were all there, and it was an inquisition. They were grilling us. Why didn't you get this in? Why didn't they take that product? Why aren't your sale, it was brutal. And then this went on for probably about each one of these was about it was hours of this. And then this little guy comes walking up, and he had just been named our president the day before. He was sitting in the back of the room. It's like, our business is down. We have to hit these numbers. I just watched you grill these people, and they gave you great answers. What they need to hit the numbers. What's going on? Why competition? None of you took a single note. None of you said you would do anything about it. There was no follow-up. And it was just this constant confrontation back and forth. It's like, that's it. This is done. The stuff you're talking about is going to help us 2 years from now. These guys know how to drive sales right now for us to hit this number, and you're not talking the same language. And it was about 6 months later, they created a new role, and it was a sales strategy role, which is a job that I ended up getting and doing. It's probably the closest connection to product marketing, because they took sellers and they sat us inside the brand teams. So we sat there, and we acted as that translation role. So we could just start learning the language that we each were talking, and kind of became that orchestration layer of none of these teams can be as successful if no one is seeing the bigger picture, if no one is helping bring them all together. And that's why I think this role is so important. It's not that we're setting, kind of directing necessarily each of these teams, but you're never going to get that the parts being greater than the sum of each individual component if someone's not making sure you're in the right tempo, bringing people in at the right time, and kind of playing that role. So this is the one that I think is really most important here. And just simple ways to kind of showcase this skill is there's nothing wrong with that. Just being that person who's really focused on active listening, who's taking really good notes, making sure to share back like, hey, this is what we all agreed to. Just different ways that you can start to look at these. Kind of mapping buyer journeys and different engagement points so that you can help peers in other functions understand what actually happens. Again, coming from this seller background of making sure people really know how the market operates. Because a lot of times when you see different functions, people just don't know those things, and really just being able to help bring that to life. So I think that's the last one that I've got here. Just 5 different things that I've picked up. These are not the answers to everything, but I found them incredibly helpful kind of coming in, and entering product marketing. So we'll take questions.
It's a great summary, Tim. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Questions on Slido? Here we go. Got a few. To your conduct the orchestra point, any tips for increasing authority when you're still new to the role or company?
I think that would have to go to making sure you are either bringing, kind of what I said before, data to the table to help reinforce your points, or staying in your swim lane to make sure it's something that you know confidently. Because if you're new and you haven't established yourself, then you could you just get yourself in trouble where I think of a good example of this really quickly. There was a time where there's a massive recall. Children's Tylenol was taken off the market was going to be off the market for about 3 months. We had just decided to exit the children's Advil business. It was a $70 million brand down to a $3 million brand over the course of maybe 15 years. And someone came in and they brought me in as a sales strategy person. We had all of these marketers sitting around the room. Everyone's coming up with ideas. Someone has this idea. Children's Advil. Justin Bieber was really big. Someone had a connection. This was a PR person. Someone had a connection to Justin Bieber's mom. Bieber fever. Fever reduction. All these, like, this is a great idea. This will be our big relaunch campaign. And I'm sitting there thinking, you are out of your minds if you think this is going to do anything. Because our goal was to get our products back into every retail. Like, that's all that we needed to do. We didn't need PR. We needed a product sitting on the shelf because their product was not going to be on the shelf. So they're talking about all of this. I knew nothing about PR. I knew nothing about advertising at the time. I could not speak about that topic. What I could confidently speak about was if me as a seller was walking in the door and telling my buyer that this is what our plan was, they would laugh us out the door. They would think it's ridiculous. And I said that. And again, these are people, 5 levels my senior who had been doing this forever. And then they stopped and said, okay, we're done, next topic. Because that was what I know. That was my lane. I didn't want to jump into their lanes, and because I couldn't comment on that. If you don't need the product on shelf, that could be a great idea. But if you need it in the shelf, this is not the way to get it there.
So Tim, a couple questions that I had, and I think it's this first one here. The Long and Winding Road. I think it's a great title for your presentation. What do you think, personality traits or soft skills did you have to bring in order to be successful in those roles? Clearly you have been, as you've redefined your career and found different places that you've loved to work. Probably the most important ones.
someone, I don't know if this is the right one here. This came up yesterday in these topics, and being just like a little resilient is, as a product marketer, being the Swiss Army knife in the most senior people's pocket. You need to be that tool that will fix any of their problems when they really need to, and they never want to not have it available. But you also don't want to be that go-to that they use for everything, because then you'll never be able to get your job done. I know that's one, I was talking to somebody about that, but really it's just about, there is so much engagement across so many different functions and so many different people, and it's connecting with all of those and figuring out the right way to say no, because when you engage with people, they will have an ask for you. Or something that I learned in selling and negotiating is always have your ask back. Because when you go to them and you meet all of these people, they're going to ask something of you. You need to know ahead of time what your ask for them is so that you're balancing off these trade-offs. And then that's part of that orchestra of connecting those dots.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thanks. And then one just popped up here. What type of data or analysis do you look at on a weekly, monthly basis to inform your product marketing decision-making?
Yeah, I'm constantly looking, and it blows me away that people don't do this. I am constantly looking at the sales data because I don't trust the filtered view that other people bring me. I want direct access to it. I get the data. I've got it in a pivot table. I know exactly what's happening, who the new customers are. I mean, it's just stuff that I had always done, and trying to figure out, I often know before our sales teams, who started spending, because I look at it and I just set up some filters that automatically, who are the top 25 new customers? Who are the ones that stop spending? What product lines are growing? What sectors are growing?
That makes sense. Last question then. I think we've got to run to lunch right after this, but 3 tips to make complex converted to simple, or any tips you've got there.
What I put before is the writing, edit, write, edit, and it might not be writing. I think of the things that I'm most proud of are that one simple graphic illustration that shows up 4 years later that people are still putting in their presentations. It's in there because it's effective. And it requires a lot of work to figure out what the right way is to convey that. Sometimes it's not a single word on the page. Sometimes it's just a really clear graphic that you figure out how to do. And the way that I do that is I tend to get a cross-functional group in a room and say, we're going to fix this and solve it today, and we're going to get on a whiteboard, and we're going to go through again and again and again, and then I bring in another group, get rid of all of them, and bring in another group and do it one more time.
That's awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing.
Thanks, everybody.